There it is, the red light, waiting on the green light. Tick tock, tick tock. There it is. We're up. We're going. Hi, guys. Max here. It is April the 16th. That's a Wednesday. Interesting day because it sits right in the middle of the work week. Like that matters. I don't work. Ha! I want to talk to you today about a really strange story. Now, nothing political here. It's just sort of very beep, 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 beep kind of weirdness, okay? Did you know that there is a CIA report that's been released talking about how a number of Russian Soviet soldiers were turned to stone by aliens? Yeah, I'm not talking somebody on a floating door, I'm talking somebody on a flying saucer. You owe it to yourself to go to the link on this story and copy what you see. And I'll tell you, the reason you want to copy what you see is because it probably won't be online too long. It's in the New York Post, but they have been known to go back and pull certain stories when certain people in the government ask them to. So get online, check it out ASAP. In the stuff of this story, okay, this is the stuff of legend, now proven fact. We've got a declassified Cold War-era file. Cold War, that's back when Russia and America were yelling at each other and threatening to blow each other up. But it wasn't a hot war, it was a Cold War. We just sort of turned our backs and said, huh, to each other. Well, here is an internal memorandum by Soviet troops about a UFO. I'm going to read it to you right now. This alien ship reportedly turned 6 Russian soldiers into stone. We're talking like Medusa, okay? Following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the CIA has acquired a 250-page KGB internal memorandum. Basically, it's a KGB writing a note to themselves to convince themselves it really did happen, because it did. It describes events that occurred right here after a platoon of soldiers on maneuvers in then Soviet Ukraine opened fire on a flying saucer. They saw this flying saucer. It flew overhead, circled around, and as it got ready to land, these idiots opened fire on it. You're talking a platoon, so at most, a heavy machine gun, at most. They opened fire on this thing, and it landed. Oh, don't they wish it had not landed. The report included eyewitness accounts and sworn testimonies and pictures and film. One American agent reviewing the files said he described this as, and I quote, a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze. How about that? Well, let's go on. Verified eyewitness reports and testimony are taking up hundreds of pages, like 250 pages, and most of these have already been cleared and verified by the CIA. That's the CIA. We'll talk about Space Force later. In one testimony by a platoon leader, see if I get it right, name is Pavel Grigorievich. He said, I quote, "We saw it," the flying saucer, "land in a clearing, and our officer ordered us to fire upon it. It opened on top, and 3 creatures, very small men, came out and crawled down to the side of the UFO." End quote. Another guy named, here we go, Sasha Pavlichenko said, and I quote, he was there, quote, "They were not men, but had the bodies of small boys, but with very large heads. I could not see the color of their eyes because they were so dark, almost as if they were holes into the darkness. The skin of their head was a light gray color." End quote. Alien grays, baby, climbing out of a UFO. You got your Russian troops. Pow, 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 pow. Well, final testimony by 2 other survivors confirms that these creatures waved their hands violently, making gestures no one could understand. Here's the quote again. This is, I call it a group quote because I put their statements together. They said, Then they, the aliens, started to crawl up the side of the UFO. This is after they started shooting at them. They were trying to get back in. As they did this, here it is. As they did this, the UFO fired a blue shaft of light, which, on striking my men, turned them to stone instantly. It was terrifying. They were turned to stone instantly, end quote. Now, as the soldiers were firing on these retreating aliens, they hit one. Was it wounded? Was it dead? We don't know. We just know that the other guys climbing with it sort of gave it a heft under the butt and tossed it inside the ship. That's what we know. And then the ship, as it lifted off, it fired on the Russians with that blue light, turning 6 men to stone. These guys were petrified, calcified, whatever you want to call it, however you want to say it. Now, actual photographs, some say including negatives, and 16 millimeter motion picture film have been recovered showing what the aliens looked like, how they fought, and what they did. Now, most of this, I told you we get to Space Force. Space Force has reclassified a lot of this as top secret. So again, if it's out there on the New York Post, you better grab it before Space Force says pull it. Here's a quote. They turned a half dozen men to stone with a ray that came from their saucer-like spaceship, said a CIA source who was present during the Ukraine military maneuvers, which went horribly wrong. He was like an observer. So he says they turned a half dozen men with a ray that came from a saucer spaceship. Fine. Well, I've had to do some digging around. How do you turn a guy to stone, right? Come on. How do you do that? What the hell was that about? I got a hold of physicists Hideki Nakamura. He said, quote, I've had a brief look into this phenomenon, and it can only be explained by a nearly instantaneous reduction in temperature of, say, minus 270 degrees Celsius or minus 460 degrees Fahrenheit. I have no theories as to how such a dramatic temperature reduction could be accomplished. End quote. So there's a physicist, a renowned physicist, says he's not sure how you could do that. You got to drop these guys from what, 40, 50 degrees outside to minus 460 instantly. Bam, now over, done. He doesn't know how to do it, but he's thinking about it. I'm not even thinking about it. It makes my head hurt. But as more and more evidence surfaces regarding UFOs, whether it's the Tic Tacs, the Navy destroyers, this particular situation, it's time for us to take a closer look at the UFO phenomenon. Restoring the former Project Blue Book is one of the best things Space Force has done. Yeah, Project Blue Book has a new name, like eight words. It's one of these stupid names somebody invented to earn his promotion. But they're looking at it. Project Blue Book is back under another name, and Space Force is checking it out. Is it real? Is it not? Is it ooh, or is it you bet your ass? I don't know. I'm Max, and I leave that to you.